Being angry, you could characterise it as your heart beating really fast, maybe a feeling of agitation in your arms and your legs. Your face goes red. Maybe you hear a buzzing sound in your head. It is an incredibly intense emotion, anger. Obviously, it can range from just mild annoyance right through to rage. So this morning, let's talk anger. What is this emotion? What is the tipping point that becomes anger? Is anger healthy? Is it normal? And is there a gender imbalance when it comes to anger? Justin Dwyer and Maria van der Geest, they are present way coaching. They come in and say g'day once a month. Justin, how do you describe anger?
Good morning, Lorella. Anger is an indication, really. So anger is an indicating emotion. It generally points to something deeper. So anger is a mask, or actually anger gets us to behave in a certain way. However, the behaviour is directed by an emotion underneath, whether that's loneliness, rejection, jealousy. There's 20 to 30 different emotions, and there are subtle differences in those emotions. So anger itself is just when we get triggered by one of those underlying emotions and a story that goes with it, and then the anger is getting us to try and behave to neutralise the threat as we see it, the perceived threat or something we feel is threatening us. Anger has a function, definitely has a function. If I was out with Maria and the kids and someone came to attack us, I would be angry very quickly, and that just means your body gets flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, and those hormones get you to produce a result. So anger has a function in that regard, and it's a boundary defence. It's there to try and get you to protect yourself. So when we look at it in that way, there's a physical response and a need for it. However, when it's an emotion tied up, that's when it can get grey as to whether the behaviour is appropriate.
So, Maria, is anger healthy or is it unhealthy?
So it's both. So it's a great question. Anger, as Justin just said, it's a natural emotion. It has a role to play. And like you said, we all feel it a lot of the time. Or it will come up and go pretty quickly. But it can also go into an unhealthy place. And that's things like when we're feeling anger a lot of the time, or when we get upset about getting angry.
What? Anger on anger?
Yeah, we can get, or even sadness on anger. So sad about how I responded when I got angry. Anger becomes unhealthy when we start to it can either damage us internally, so create turmoil inside of us, or we express it outwardly and it starts to hurt or impact others around us and becomes a threat.
Why in our society today, and this is just something I've observed, that anger is not appropriate and we should be ashamed when we're angry? You're both nodding. This is an observation of mine, but maybe there is more to it, Justin?
Yeah, I think, there is a healthy response to anger, and when a lot of us, again, when the underlying emotion that's guiding the anger is not resolved, that's where it becomes inappropriate. A lot of us hold, insecurities, traumas from the past, subconscious patterns, whatever you want to call them. There's parts of ourselves we don't know very well. And when we don't investigate those and we just react on the impulse, that's when it becomes unhealthy. And that's where, in society, people can just blast off at each other at work or whatever. That's not healthy. That's not appropriate behaviour.
When is it? When is it healthy to be angry?
Like I said before, if someone was threatening Maria and myself and the kids in the street, it's very appropriate to be angry then for a short burst. Anger by design is meant to be a short burst. It floods you with the hormones that you need to produce a result. But in that regard, I would protect Maria and the kids, and then it would be gone. Then it's done. Then you breathe and let it go. One of our teachers talks about anger in the wild, where two ducks will be having a scrap for whatever they've got into each other's way, and for whatever reason they get angry and they defend their boundaries. Maybe it's a nest or a bird protecting their nest, whatever. And then they go back and they shake it off, and then they just go back about their business. So the anger has been used to defend, what needs to be defended, and now it's all happy days again. But they're not angry at each other anymore.
ABC Local Radio right across the Northern Territory with you this morning, Justin Dwyer and Maria van der Geest. They are your present way coaching life coaches today, talking about the emotion of anger. Still don't get it. So if there's a perceived injustice in the workplace, as a for instance, and someone gets angry about it, you're saying that's wrong, that they can only be angry if their physical being is in some way jeopardised.
No, I wouldn't say that's wrong. I would say that it needs further investigation as to why somebody feels, because the anger itself is an indication. It's getting you to look inside yourself. It's saying, hey, there's a flag. Let's look at this a little bit deeper. But if you just react on that anger, then possibly you're going to cause an outcome that now you have to deal with that outcome of that anger. Whereas if you feel angry that someone's, you feel there's been an injustice at work, say, and you feel, revved up and you feel quite upset about it, well, why is that? We need to look a little bit deeper, because maybe you feel rejected. Okay, why do you feel rejected? What is it below there that feels rejected? And we start questioning deeper and deeper, and we get to a place within us that, actually I feel really sad and lonely or something. There's some other reason why you got triggered into anger. But the anger itself is getting you to raise a flag, hey, there's something there that you need to look at a bit deeper. And then if there's something you need to deal with after that process, by all means, go and have a conversation or say, but it'll be from a calm place, not from that energy of cortisol and adrenaline. It'll be calm down. Okay, I see why I was angry. Now I can deal with that part of it.
I want to go back to the shame of anger, and you're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to have that explosive expression for whatever's going on in the background. I want to talk about children. Often kids will lose their lolly because obviously they're learning boundaries and they're learning about what all these emotions are. Should we be telling children, no, you cannot be angry. How dare you yell and scream? What's going on here, and should we be changing how we view anger?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great question. And I think that's the reason a lot of us can't handle anger in adulthood, is that we were shut down from anger or expressing anger or becoming used to even feeling anger in our body, and then coming up with a way to actually process it, have it validated, process it, and actually do something constructive with it. And so then as adults, we don't know how to do this. So it does burst out of us at times. The best way, children should never be told not to feel a single emotion. In fact, it's really, if we expect we're going to create resilient adults, we need to let them feel their emotions. So the first thing that you need to do for a child expressing anger, and they can do it in big explosive ways, scream and yell and throw and do hit out even. But we need to validate that feeling as the very first thing. I see you. I see your feeling. I hear you. I see you feeling angry. And I know you're a good kid and you must be so upset to be acting this way. So, and immediately that might cause an immediate diffusion. The kid might just, if we did it with an adult even, it can sometimes diffuse a situation. I'm safe to feel this. And then we guide them through feeling that emotion and what we can do about it, getting them to a place calming down first, and then getting them to a place to start thinking about solutions. As Justin's been saying, anger is a catalyst, so a catalyst for change. We've got to transform the anger to something else to create a solution, and that's how we actually process and deal with anger.
Now, I saw a post recently and it said, what's the difference between being assertive and being aggressive? The answer, your gender. And I thought, this is so interesting, because is there a perception that it's okay for a fella to be assertive, but if a woman expresses that same behaviour, it's considered aggressive? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I do think there is an element of that in our culture. And I do think when a woman stands up for herself or calls out a man's behaviour in particular, or even out another woman's behaviour, I think she can be called a whole range of different names. I do think there's a difference, though, between assertiveness and aggression. Aggression sounds to me, or is for me anyway, in the way I view it, is bordering on, making physical threats. It's being threatening, and it can then lead into violence. And that's aggression and violence really are actions, they're not feelings. Assertiveness sounds to me a very considered approach. I'm standing up for myself. I'm not coming from anger, I'm actually coming from a solution. But I'm standing up and I'm putting my boundaries in place.
Yeah, and so some people
are
misconstruing that as aggression rather than, actually, no, I've got an opinion.
Absolutely.
I might be saying in a way that you don't like, but I'm going to stand my ground.
Yeah. And I think women, we can be very fierce. And I think perhaps we haven't been in the past, and maybe people have got to get used to that we're passionate and we can be fierce and we can be assertive. And I think we've got to also learn how to do that in the way that honours who we are and honours the people around us. So perhaps we're in a learning phase about, doing that and how we do that in the workplace, and in our families and in culture in general.
Talking anger this morning, and on the text, I reckon, says this person, if someone is really angry with no real reason that you can see, the answer has something to do with either sex or with money. What do you think about that, Justin?
Possibly. I think it's broader than that. I think it comes down to emotional intelligence at the end of the day. So again, anger is raising an issue for us internally, and it's about how we process that. Maybe it's sex, maybe it's money, maybe it's feeling insignificant, maybe it's, hidden stuff from the past that hasn't been resolved. I don't think it's as simple as just saying it's sex
Those
or
two
money.
things.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is two things. Anger is a way to find a solution, which I really like because that's healthy and positive. But also people who are feeling that anger and it's exploding, it's because they're not feeling heard. Is that a surmise or no?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, it's that internal, that deep feeling of feeling seen, heard and loved. And again, this comes back to basically our childhood or early childhood, where we learn how we perceived in the world. And this, going into a deeper place, this creates our subconscious, which is most of who we are, is subconscious programming. And when we don't know that, we don't see that, we don't understand what's really going on, the anger is raising a flag that, hey, look there, look deeper, look into yourself, because you feel triggered, you feel annoyed, you feel unseen, unheard, unloved. But is that really true? Is it just that somebody said something and it's triggered something from your past? Like Maria can say something to me and it might trigger something from my past, and I immediately go to that and react to that. I've actually missed what she said. Maybe she said it unskillfully or in a way that's, possibly we can work on together. But if I just react to that anger, that's just me reacting to a past program in my mind. And now I make Maria feel unsafe. Now she's going to feel angry because she has to defend herself. And this is how, when you don't have that emotional intelligence, you end up just triggering each other backwards and forwards, getting angry, and that just escalates and escalates.
You're on ABC Local Radio right across the Northern Territory. With you this morning, Justin Dwyer and Maria van der Geest, Present Way Coaching, talking about anger. It's a bit of a scary conversation, isn't it? But it does make you think about, when am I angry? Why am I angry? Is it okay to be angry? If you want to get on the text, 0487 991057. This is a comment. She made me do it. Now, my brother-in-law, he hosts anger management classes for men. The predominant theme is she made me do it. And he says that getting men to take responsibility for anger is extremely difficult. What do you say to that, Maria?
Yeah, I find that really interesting and really fascinating, actually. And I think getting men to take responsibility for their own behaviours and their own responses. Look, I think that makes me a bit sad in some ways, because we're all ultimately only responsible for what's going on inside of us. And I mean, that's something, self-responsibility is, response-able, that's what the word actually means, responsibility. So I think perhaps it's just a matter of I can't handle what's going on inside of me, so I blame. They just reject. And I think maybe men, you can comment more on this, Justin, but they have a very hard time sitting with emotions. And partly with anger, it is, if you can sense into your body what actually happens, this is the way we would teach to be able to start to sense what happens in the body. And you mentioned a few things earlier, getting red in the face, hot, fists clenched, teeth, your jaw sometimes gets clenched. I screw up my face when I get angry. And it's this overwhelming emotion. Now, if we can catch it there, we can take a breath and go, wow, I'm feeling anger. I just need to take myself away from the situation and start to do something with it.
But
and
she's making me that way.
Yeah, and
I'm not making me this way. Yeah. She's making me this way.
And then that will be just the person just hitting that anger straight back out, projecting it in and onto the other person, and that will be aggressive. It will be, an outrage or an outburst. Ultimately, what your brother-in-law is doing is teaching the masculine to go back in and actually take responsibility and say, outside of the situation, I am responsible for it. What's going on inside of me? What's happening? What's causing it? What are my triggers? What's below all of this, which is a lot of what Justin was talking about, and figuring that out so that anger doesn't become a problem in the relationship. But she made me do it. No one can make us do something unless, when it's physical, we may have reactions if there's physical threat, but that is projecting anger straight back out at somebody else and making them responsible for it, which it's a very immature way of dealing with anger.
A lot of people right now across the territory could be rolling their eyes and going, men, blaming men. But the truth is domestic violence is the very worst in the Northern Territory. And so, yes, men and anger is the predominant. You're a fella. Is it because blokes have more testosterone going through their body, so that makes them more angry than women? Is it unfair to say men get more angry than women? Is it that they lack the emotional intelligence that women have? What do you say, Justin?
I totally agree that men have to take responsibility. Nobody can make you do anything. If you react, if you behave, if you do something, you chose to do that. Whether that's consciously or unconsciously, you did it. It came from your system. Nobody can make you do that. It feels like somebody can, and this again comes down to a deep understanding of who you are, but a lot of that comes from the messaging that guys have got, and men are incredibly powerful. We have a powerful energy for sure, but the messaging that a lot of guys got as children, typically was don't cry, don't be a girl, don't be a sissy, whatever that messaging is, teaches us to shut down our feelings. And therefore, and a lot of that too was from, there's what's called a mother wound, where boys, if their mother teaches them that, or their dad, they feel disempowered as a child. So now they have this unconscious pattern where they feel disempowered. So if they feel like somebody can make me do something, that's just a disempowered pattern, which, that needs to be deeply looked at. That's healing work there. But men do need to be in control of their emotions. And when you start to learn this stuff and learn emotional intelligence and learn what it actually means to sit with an uncomfortable feeling, you'll realise then how much strength you have, because it takes a hell of a lot of strength to recondition yourself out of those automatic patterns. So if a man wants to be a strong man, I'd suggest doing some emotional work, because you'll figure out how strong you really need to be and how strong you really are.
Okay. So coming up to the news at 11 o'clock, anger, it's okay, but is there the capacity to change? Even though we have come to the conclusion that anger can be healthy and it can be a positive source for change, if you're an angry person, and this is a pattern, they say a leopard can't change its spots. Can it? Can you become a not angry person, I don't know what I'm saying there, and not have anger. Is that possible, Maria?
I think it is possible to change the unhealthy aspect of anger. You won't. I think anger is natural. That's what we're saying, but it takes a bit of work. So if, as you said, anger is now a pattern in your life, if it's showing up and you don't feel in control of it, if you get aggressive to try and get people to do what you want them to do, those types of things, if that's showing up in your life, really that is the big flag to say you actually need some help. And it's not a shame to get help for this. It's actually going to change your life for the better, and it's going to change your life and the people around you for the better. You're going to be able to create that closeness and connection that you actually deeply want, and your anger, you can change it and transform it into something that's useful and connecting and creates the positive impact that you want in your life. But you're going to need some help. There's lots of places to get help. Initially, you can reach out. There's resources online like Headspace, Beyond Blue, and there's a whole range of other organisations out there where you can just read about it and just start educating yourself about it. Then start to seek some guidance. You can look for group support, in group therapy. You can go to traditional sort of routes like psychologists. You can get a mental health plan and go and seek out a psychologist. Your brother-in-law's courses, there's courses online for these sorts of things. There's men's support group. Betterment is one that Justin runs. And then you can also seek help from someone like us, a coach, and that can guide you through the work to do the healing behind it, and to learn the tools to actually change your nervous system wiring to be able to cope with feeling and then feeling and not actually reacting from the emotion, and away you go.
Okay, Justin.
I was staring at Maria and I got lost.
Well, why wouldn't you? Very, very sound words.
What do you think?
What was the question? Oh, sorry.
What can you heal, or can you become a calm, centered, conscious person?
Yes, I think you can, but it takes work and it takes education. I don't think you're going to do it on your own. If you, like Maria said, if that's a pattern within you, and like any pattern we have unconsciously or subconsciously that's baked into our system, if we don't have guidance or skills or education to at least understand the game we're playing to change it, you're not going to do it on your own. So I would suggest getting some help as well through the means that Maria's just laid out.
Fabulous. Thank you both for coming in. Interesting conversation.